Hi, my name is Garrett Christopher, and this is my YouTube channel, Garrett Sports Take. I have two other channels. There's Garrett's Take, which is just me talking about stuff. And the first presentation, I talk about a cat. And then I have my Garrett's Movie Take. And that one I post-viewed, not a preview because it's been out for a while, but I post-viewed The Blues Brothers. Yeah, so please check those out as well. But here I'm going to talk about sports. And to be very honest, I'm going to be biased towards my teams. Now, I live in Southern California. I grew up in Central and Southern California, and so the Dodgers, my baseball team, the Lakers is my basketball team, and the Dolphins, oddly enough, is my football team. I'll talk about that in a second, just how that came about. By the way, please visit GarrettChristopher.com, and you'll get an idea of kind of who I am. I'm also a self-published author, got some books out there, a couple of audio books, and I do a weekly podcast. Found both on Soundcloud and on Spotify. So please check those out. On this YouTube channel, you'll find in my descriptions there also my different media sites, as well as my email address. So please email me. Let me know what you think. Of all three of the channels, I'm pretty sure this channel here is going to be the one where there's the most banter back and forth, the most disagreements. Probably not too many agreements, but, and maybe some, hey, I agree with that comment. But disagreements on a lot of things. We love to disagree when it comes to sports, right? So there we have it. Please send the comments in. Let's talk about it. I'll talk about them on the show. There you go. All right. So let's talk about the Dolphins for a second, how I became a Miami Dolphins fan. Growing up, I was always enamored by water. Even now, I think that I belong under the sea. My wife thinks the same thing, by the way. In fact, sometimes she'd like to throw me into the ocean. But yeah, I loved the man from Atlantis. Remember that? Patrick Duffy. You're a little older, like my age. I'm over 50, so you'd remember that. Aquaman. My favorite superhero, DC Comics, is Aquaman. He's up here somewhere. Oh, I hit him behind the jersey. And then, yeah, so when I found out that there was a football team that was, in the ocean, they're an animal from the ocean, I picked them right away, Miami Dolphins. And I have been heartbroken ever since. I became a fan in 1980. That's when they lost to the Chargers in overtime, 41-38. Then they went to the Super Bowl a year later and lost, of course, after leading at the halftime. John Riggins, thank you very much for that. And then, of course, they went once again against, Bill Walsh's 49ers and lost again. And that's it. After that, it was the Bills who kicked them around, and now we haven't been in the playoffs for a lot of years. We'll talk about the Dolphins later. This show is dedicated to Dave Roberts. Hi, Dave. Let me say this first. Dave Roberts, from what I can tell, I've never met him, okay? So this is all just me picking up stuff off the television and then taking in things as far as what I see with other players and blah, 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 right? Dave Roberts is a big reason why the LA Dodgers won the World Series last year, okay? He's also a big reason why they lost against the Astros. Forget the scandal, okay? They shouldn't have lost Game 5. Now, he didn't know Game 2 what was going to happen as far as Kenley. Because Kenley, at that point, yeah, he'd blown some saves like they all do, but things happen. That just happened. Game 5 shouldn't have happened. There's also other playoff situations where he has trusted two young men, two veterans on the team more than he should have. Dave, I'm sure, is a great guy, but up until last year's World Series and part of the National League Championship Series, I really disagree with the way Dave manages. I understand he's a great guy. Sorry, someone decided to zip through here. Great guy. I understand the fact that he's really good in terms of like what the management, general manager, ownership wants to see, analytics, all that kind of thing. He's very pliable as far as that's concerned. Teammates, they know where they stand with him, right? As far as players, his coaching staff. There's a lot of things I like about Dave Roberts. And how can you fault a guy who's taken your team to the division, championship year after year after year after year after year? But here's my thing, and I was just talking to my youngest child the other night about this. This was after Kenley Jansen had blown 2 back-to-back saves against the Giants, okay? This date right here of this little thing is the 25th of July. So Kenley just saved one against Colorado, but he had blown 3 consecutive saves, and 2 back-to-back against the Giants. Well, let's talk about that for a second. After blowing the game against Colorado, okay, then you come in and you've got Julio Urias who just knocks it out of the park, and we're good 2-1. Your reliever in the 8th comes in and takes 9 pitches to get through the lineup. Now I know it's usually a matter of Kenley comes in, okay, after your guy in the 8th, mows him down, then Kenley comes in and finishes it off. That's the huge, right? Well, the huge got Dave in trouble over the last few seasons. He stepped away from the huge and won the World Series because the huge would have said, don't leave Julio Urias in the game against Tampa Bay all those innings. Have him pitch 1-2 innings and then bring in your other guys and finish it off with Kenley. But Kenley wasn't doing well, and maybe there were health issues too I didn't know about behind the scenes, but we all knew, for us Dodger fans, that Kenley was not doing well toward the end of the season and definitely not in the playoffs. So what did Dave do? He stepped away from the huge. He kept Julio in the game, and guess what? In 6 games, the LA Dodgers became world champions. So as I'm talking to my daughter, it came about where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So these guys, Dave has been with the team for a long time. He doesn't have to infuse his ways or kind of share his mindset with the team. These guys know. If anything, if a new guy comes to the team, like when Albert Pujols came to the team, let the Clayton Kershaws of the world be the ones to talk to Albert as far as, this is how Dave manages. Dave, the stage is set. Everything's good as far as he's concerned in terms of like how he does things, how he runs spring training, how he goes into the season, what he does, certain guys' roles, days off, all that kind of stuff, right? It hasn't changed. When you get into the season, you get through spring training, you pick your 26 people, and then you go through there and you have your little change-ups as far as because of injuries and blah, blah, blah. Maybe for the first 40, 50 games, and again, this team is pretty much, you figure 18, 19, 20 guys have stayed together over the last few years, right? For the most part. Yeah, a few pieces, but for the most part, the core has been there. So you don't need to, relearn these things. It's there already. Why are you still concerned about how guys are going to take certain things when you're trying to manage the game? My fault with Dave Roberts is he manages the players when he should be managing the game. There's a time, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my clock because this is going to be a part 2. I can tell right now I'm almost up in time. There's a time to manage the players, and there's a time to manage the game. Let's talk about that in part 2. Thanks so much. This is Garrett Christopher, and this is Garrett's Sports Take, and I'm talking about the Dodgers and Dave Roberts specifically. Please come in for part 2. I'll see you soon. GoPro, stop recording. GoPro, stop recording.